Technology, diversity, wine, the redwoods, and everything in between. Welcome to the Northern California Bay Area, and one show takes you inside the real estate that makes it all happen. This is By the Bay.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to By the Bay. I'm your host, Dan Ancheta, and I want to say thank you to everyone in the audience for listening and watching on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, wherever else you might be streaming this or listening to us. I really appreciate you being part of the audience, and thanks for following us on Instagram. And today I want to introduce you to one of my very dear friends, Marcus Peterson-Spain is here. Marcus is a transformational coach. I'll let him describe what he does. We met through our business networking group, our BNI chapter, and we've become great friends. And I'm a client of Marcus's, and I see him for like performance coaching. And I wanted to have him on the show today. It's going to be a different take on what we typically do. We're usually talking about real estate, but this episode is really dedicated to real estate professionals who are driven, hardworking, competitive people. And I think hearing from someone like Marcus is really going to open your eyes to what's possible for you, going from where you are in your business to where you want to be by looking internally and working on yourself to like become the person that achieves those things. I think that's a pretty good introduction. Marcus, thank you for being here. Introduce yourself to the audience, and then let's jump right into like some common things that you see in high performers that aren't, getting the results they want, and kind of how you help them. So tell us about you.
So thank you so much for that introduction. And Dan is amazing. We all know that. I really value you and your friendship. I really value you and our friendship. I want you to know that.
Yeah, thank you.
So for me, what I do is really kind of like a new sphere of working with people and their humanness. So, there's kind of like, there's this idea of what a coach is, and that's kind of a broad thing. So I call myself a coach, but it's really like I'm working on kind of all four levels and systems that run a human being. So not just the mental, not just like the physical, but also like the energetic and the existential. And part of my work is about finding the gap for people in performance, because one of the things I hear in the world all the time is like when anyone is stopped or stuck, it's like bombard it with action, just like act and act and act. And action is great, but if we're at that point, it means that there's something in another domain that's in our way.
Okay.
And so for me, it's really about like economy, ease, and like success, because when people try to grind through blind spots with action, it wears away on them. And it causes a lot of peripheral damage. But the way that I get to work with people, I get to help release that precisely. And then there's suddenly more availability and bandwidth, and usually like an immediate kind of increase in success from the actions that they do take.
Okay.
So I think for high performance competitive people, one of the things is we get so identified with our action and our output, and thinking that we make this equation, like if I do 100 hours, like I will get 2 clients out of that, and then we just kind of like repeat or maximize that over and over. But when people get to a wall in that, there's just a point of like action and refinement we can't get to.
Right.
And so that's when people start to feel really stuck or disenchanted.
Right.
And those are the people I really want to help, because we want to open up that next world of them for their next level of performance and fulfillment.
It makes total sense to me. Like, and in most coaching that I've participated in and I've seen is really about finding those little efficiencies. How do you create systems within your business to maximize your time and free up more hours to do the things that drive in the business? And then it becomes down to, okay, if it takes 100 conversations to get 2 clients, how do we make that 80 conversations? And how do you make that 50 conversations to become more efficient, and like scripting and practicing and rehearsing and all of these things, which I think is totally fine. There's a place for that. But I think to your point, there's a point that you get to that you can't maximize anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when I think someone like you really plays a huge role in unlocking like a new domain that people don't even understand is possible. So kind of walk us through like how you help high performers, with those types of breakthroughs.
Yeah. So I think knowing that someone's a high performer or having someone feel or identified with that, it already tells me that that performance comes from a very specific place. And a lot of times that's always like the past somewhere, right? And I think what we don't appreciate a lot of times is that how we go about doing something, where something is rooted from, actually kind of affects everything. So we kind of, high performers are wanting performance and achievement because underneath they think that's going to give them something in life. That can be physical things like money, notoriety, but underneath there's something deeper, right? And that's kind of one of the elements is like helping those people get related to that drive, because I want a high performer to be able to see all the possibilities, take the best choice, and be driven and motivated in a way that is successful, but also like nourishing and fulfilling.
Right.
And a lot of times people, one of the blind spots for high performers, they don't see that the way that they go about it drives them, like their drive runs them. And so the stuff if like personally they're not taking care of themselves or their relationships are not where they want to be, but they're like, well, but I have to perform and then I'll get it all to this level and then I'll be able to spend more time, or then that kind of system, that's like when it's driving us.
Right.
And not only is there more fulfillment and freedom in being driven by something like other than that, like how am I going to say it? Like it changes the whole quality of living where that drive comes from and where the focus of it is.
Right. So I think you're right. I think when people get into the business, it's about, making a living, making money. And it's like, great, I can be successful at this and I can show you how successful I am because I'm making money and I can buy a nice car and I can buy a nice house and I can go on nice vacations. And you cross a certain threshold where that's not fulfilling anymore.
Yeah.
And then it becomes about something else. It becomes about being better. It becomes about comparing yourself and your performance to other people in the industry. And it's proven because every year there's these ranking lists that come out and you want to see where you rank in your county, in your state, in the country. Where am I in the hierarchy of realtors and mortgage lenders?
Yeah.
And at a certain point for some people, it's like, well, it's not about making the money because the money's coming, right? I've got a business that keeps growing. My clients come back to me. My partners love to refer to me, and that's great. But really what starts driving people is I have to be better than so-and-so. I have to get into the top 100. I have to make sure I stay in the top 100. Well, I was in the top 100 and I want to be in the top 10. And then you just kind of keep chasing. And for me, it's kind of like, to what end? And like, what is the thing behind that that's making that, you don't need the money anymore. You're making a ton. So, but you're still choosing to go do more and more and more and more. And I just wonder what's in the psychology, what's behind that and why that plays into someone's, kind of calculus when they're trying to figure out what to do with their time. Right.
Yeah. Well, and then, so one of the first kind of phenomenon I look at with people is like, what is that about? Like, what is success? Like, we all think that there are these blanket terms, right? Well, it's like, well, everybody wants to look good. They want money. No, not everybody. That's not what success is for everybody. And there isn't like a right definition of success, but there is such an individual one. And we often don't appreciate and recognize what we personally have made those words mean. And so part of it is getting like aware in a different way where that's living. Because like, what does being in the top 100 mean, really? I don't know.
It's something to brag about. You get to post it on social and you get to be like, hey, look at me, pay attention to me. I'm doing great. I'm in the triple platinum diamond society.
Yeah. Isn't
that neat? And no one really knows what it means, but it's something that, puts eyeballs on you and it's an ego thing. It feeds the ego.
Yeah. And so to that point, like, yeah, and that could be a market differentiator that could, increase your value or credibility to your audience. So like there are like logical
There's valid, there's good reasons for it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't celebrate these things. It's just, I question, like, what's the motivator behind people trying to achieve more and more and more and grow and, do.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just wonder how you help people kind of break through that.
Yeah. So I think right there, the next question then is kind of, do you actually get the value? Do you, when you're in the top 10, do you actually get to feel that fulfillment and joy from that success? Or does it like feel like a big relief and an ego thing for a moment? Or does it actually kind of honor you and all the work you've done? And I think for most people, those moments are fleeting and they're like a relief and they're like, they make our ego feel good. They don't actually make us feel more whole and fulfilled. And that's a big difference about looking at the quality of performance and achievement, right?
I think if you're really sitting with that and thinking about it, I think it feeds the ego for a moment. And then the next question is, okay, I have to do this again because last year's results don't matter. What matters is today's results. And so reflecting on your accomplishments in the past is great. It's like awesome. But then I still have to get up tomorrow and perform and fill the pipeline and find new partners and take care of my clients. And either it's, okay, I was in the top 100. Now I want to move up and be in the top 50, or it's, I was the number one and I need to stay the number one. And so there's never, ever an end, right? It's just like you won. That's great. And now you lace back up and get back out there and do it again. And it just, you're on this hamster wheel of chasing the thing that's in front of you, but you can never actually get there.
Yeah. And even if you get there, right, I call it the carrot and the stick, right? Like, the stick with the carrot and we're getting the donkey to like go after it. And that's how we get it to move. That's what the identity or the ego does to all of us. So what you're describing is like a core thing. When I see someone expressing that, I'm like, this is stuck in their identity. It's driving them. They don't really have a choice. And you're right. Even if you get that carrot, it'll just pop out again. And that's kind of the riggedness of the game. And when you catch that and start getting interested in that, then something shifts about how we look about what we're up to, how we're up to it. And like sometimes we forget why we start doing something. We just like go for it and we're invested and we're hustling and we're grinding and we're trying to figure out how to do the thing. And then we don't have a moment to actually stop and be like, oh, do I want to do this way? Do I want to do this at all? It's like, nope, now that's what I do. I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
And then those lists and every way we can find to be more, get more, we're just kind of like being like driven at. One of the things that's been interesting for me, like in a psychological world, is the past few years, there's been a big movement to talk what we used to consider a midlife crisis. We kind of now like a midlife awakening, because there is this phenomenon, and it's kind of what we're talking about when people start to catch on in some way that their life and what they're doing, there is an element of automaticness. And somewhere there's a quarter life era that can catch up with people. And around midlife, everyone kind of experiences some level of like disillusionment or a gap, right? And then we can ignore that and try to drive ahead. And then that usually leads to more like the crisis scenario, like, oh, I'm going to recapture my youth. I'm going to buy the car that I never got. I'm going to divorce and get the young wife that I never had, and trying to go about maintaining status quo, but then it kind of expresses itself somewhere else, right? That's kind of the old archetype.
Sure.
Now, more and more like people are realizing there can be a moment of awareness and then getting interested in this same way about like, what is my life really about? What do I really want? If I got all of the stuff that I wanted, if I'm the best realtor, I make all the money, instead of like just more the next year, like what could I finally get to have or be? Like, what is all this for really? And sometimes we don't know because it's just like feeding a machine. And so I think part of that is getting people like present that their performance and the way they go about performance isn't isolated. And there is a way to go about living success, motivation, family, friends, our relationship with ourselves that could all be intertwined and fulfilling on something that matters to us and not just chasing the carrot on the stick, which, efficiency, action, all those things are really important. But if I'm just always chasing the carrot, that has a different quality. Even a donkey gets sick of chasing the carrot.
I was going to say, like, I don't think it's to deter people from trying to achieve more and to like be a high performer and to, hit all of your goals and to like, set big, crazy goals and then go and creatively find ways to achieve them. It's about what really is driving you to do that.
Yeah.
And if it is, well, I've got to be better than, or I need to avoid, I have to provide for my family because I didn't have that when I was a kid, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be something. I'm avoiding this thing. It's this monkey that you carry around on your back where it's like, yeah, I have to avoid this, and I'm going to act in a way and do all these things, right, to avoid being this thing, instead of saying, hey, look, I actually want to be this type of friend. I want to be this type of boss. I want to be this type of partner, and having that be the thing that motivates you, as opposed to, avoiding this thing that makes you uncomfortable or, is repulsive to you because you have trauma around it. Right. So we've talked about this. So this is like some of the work that we've done.
That's great. Yeah.
So you're like, yes, you've been paying attention in our sessions. I have been.
I'm very happy.
Yes. Great. Bonus points for me. So tell the audience kind of about that, like dig into that a little bit. And how do you extract that from and helping your clients kind of see that perspective? Because I don't think that people really see kind of what's happening behind the curtain.
Yeah. And we can't. That's the design of it. And that's what's infuriating. Yeah. Right. I'm super self-reliant. I literally felt like growing up, I couldn't have any needs or wants. Like I was just telling my husband, I was looking at it just the past few days. And I was like, yeah, I didn't even feel like it was my hometown I grew up in. I felt like I was an ingratiated visitor everywhere and just trying to get permission and safety by being like this model visiting dignitary, which, is weird. Like I was a little kid in a small farming town in Wisconsin, but I felt life was so conditional. Having any needs or desires was so jeopardizing that like I just had this invisible cage that everything lived in. And that's the big thing that I do with people, because we can't see it on our own. That's part of what's beautiful about being a coach or a therapist, right? Even a mentor sometimes. We need someone out of our perceptual field that can help us see something we're not seeing. For me, what's great is like, I really understand identity and the ego in a very different way. One that's really changed my life and been a big factor for a lot of my clients, because they'll come with, decades of therapy or sobriety. And I usually work with people who have done a lot of work. They're like up to something in life. And in the first couple sessions, almost always the first session, they see something that they've never seen before. That's what I care about. Like if I'm going to talk to someone, and I'm not going to give them advice on how to do things better. One of the ways that I do that, and one of the ways I think would help your audience to even look at it, is just, I grew up being an actor. So as an actor, you're aware that you're this human being, and then you're bringing that to a role, a character. I think the human identity is really just the character that we've been stuck playing, almost like the Truman Show. That movie with Jim Carrey? I love it. Yeah. It's really
love that movie.
Captured this. And it's like the part in the movie when he starts to like do the opposite thing, and all of a sudden he catch people like on a cigarette break, and he realizes that they're not really who they've been for him. He starts to catch on to that. And that's really what working with me the first few sessions I know is like, right? Because I start to help people see the character. It's like, hey, you're on break. I want to talk to you like an actor. Let's talk about this character you've been playing. And they're like, what? Yeah. Because you don't have to be anyway. You're like, if we got hit in the head the right way, I always love to say this. This is like an episode of Gilligan's Island or something. Like the professor gets hit in the head by a coconut, right? Super great writing. Love it. And all of a sudden he's like a completely different person, because the memories, he has amnesia. He doesn't remember who he is. He doesn't remember all of his rules and his stuff. And all of a sudden he's like aggressive and dark and like predatory. And that's not the professor. And being an actor, like I trained so much on being able to relocate myself and my humanity into this other character to honor it. And in doing that, you kind of discover more about yourself. That kind of was the foundation of my work now, where it's like I'm helping people see what unconsciously or subconsciously formed and tied this character to people. And then we help untie that, not because there's something wrong with that character, but because the actor is capable of so much more. It's like we're in the middle of the second act and we have another act to go. And they're just like, I know how this is going to go. I'm just going to keep competing. I'm going to keep grinding. I'm going to keep performing. I'm shooting for retirement. And it's like, no.
Right.
What if you could be the writer and rewrite that third act?
Yeah, I feel like in a way, like my experience has been like, I'm a character actor. And I just keep playing the same role. Like, that actor that shows up, like, that's like the same cop that plays in every sitcom, shows up in every movie as the same kind of questionable character police officer. That guy.
Yeah.
Don't know you recognize him, you don't know the actor's name.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of people are playing that role and they could like do some work, kind of work internally, and then they could play lots of different roles. They're not tied to that one character actor role. They could be in a drama. They could be in a comedy. They could go to Broadway. They could do lots of things that they're capable of, but they believe they've been told, they've been conditioned, they've been trained in a way that this is who you are. This is all you are, and you got to keep playing this role. And it's like, well, I don't think that's true for a lot of people.
No. Yeah, it's funny. It brings me back to your elephant and stick metaphor.
Yeah.
The insidious part about the stick.
So we were talking about that before we started recording. So tell it.
Oh, that was before. Okay. So good. No, thank you for reminding me. So yeah, that whole adage about if you take a baby elephant and you tie them to a big log, then when they try to resist and get away and they can't, they slowly learn and adapt. They're like, oh, I can't get away. And so then when they're this huge, like 10 times bigger creature, super strong, you tie them to like a little twig or a branch, they still have the same association. I can't be free. That's exactly what it's like for us, except instead of looking like a stick or a log, it looks like the thing that is most valuable about us.
I had to think about that. It's the thing that's the most valuable about us.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you get chained down to and you believe that you can't break free from.
Yeah, because when you look at it, there's no way I'd get free from that.
Right.
So for me, like believing that I was you, that's my first like identity moment that created my character. I was in a sandbox in kindergarten. A little girl came over in like a frilly dress and was sitting there. And me and this other boy were like, I don't know, little micro machines or whatever in the sand. And we're just playing. And she's like sitting there. And all of a sudden he like, drives by her and sand gets on. And she's like, oh, don't get it on my dress. And he's like, this is a sandbox. Like, what are you doing here? And after the third time, he's like, well, you're only here because you like Marcus. And she's like, no, I don't. Ew. And she ran away. Now, that seems really innocent. But for me, I was like jeopardized. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I was you. And I walked inside and I was really in this like stunned state. And I was like, I learned something that I didn't know. And then all of a sudden my mind started to make sense of all these things with it. And then we got into the classroom and the teacher was, I know it was a little chaotic and she just got a little worked up and she somehow like snapped, but ended up looking at me. And I was like, I have to be good. Not only was I good, I had to be like perfectly good. I grew up in a small Midwest town. And when I graduated, these like old women who had taught for 60 years in the nicest area in the world, in the simplest little sweet place, were like, you have the most polite, nice son I've ever met in all my career teaching. That seemed like this value that there's no way I would shake or get rid of. It got me attention in a positive way, but it was all really a compensation and avoidance of this reality underneath that I forgot, but that I was you. And that's the circle and dynamic. And I didn't know it. I didn't know, but all the achieving, all the niceness, I couldn't do. I mean, what a waste for my teenage years. I could do like almost no rebellion, I could like not do any of the boundary pushing and discovery that I probably needed to do and should have done, which is natural.
Yeah.
And that just has it just has an effect. Like there was such a high bar for me internally, and anything that could be disliked or unapproved of or not good was like, I had to avoid it, like the plague.
And you're like performing, right? Like you said, like you were playing this character that had to avoid, someone's interpretation of you being anything less than perfect. And that's a lot of pressure for anybody, and especially for a young child.
Yeah, but it also occurred like that character was my hero.
So huge attachment to it.
Yeah. I couldn't see living without it. I even got to this point when I was 15 where I like thought about suicide, like seriously for a moment. And I freaked myself out. And I was like, oh my God, something needs to change. And that's, we see that a lot in teenage mental health issues and suicide. Like it's the ones who are achieving, who no one would ever think of, that suddenly are the ones that feel most disenfranchised in the world. And we don't see it because it's not happening on the surface, and they don't. And that's one of the things about suicidal thought and thinking is, for me, it's not wholly a mental health issue. There is an existential block in there. Somehow those people, and I know because I went through it, like felt so divorced and unsafe in living, in life, in that connectedness, that they're like, I was trying to grasp and get my way somehow in to feel connected and safe, but that wasn't going to come from the mind. It wasn't going to come from actions because, everybody else around me is like, you're connected. We love you. But in me, it was like, I could never have that because there was no way to get this decision that I was you, that lesson out of me. And that's that's what led me to be a high performer in my own way. And I never got the benefit from my achievement.
Yeah.
I got a moment of relief. And then, like you said, the next goal, the next thing.
I want to pause there and just say I'm very, very grateful that you're here. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know those are scary, scary thoughts. And if anyone is listening is struggling with that, we'll make sure there's contact information below for anyone who's having those thoughts. Yeah,
honestly, absolutely. And I just think everyone needs to understand too, if anyone is resonating with that, like you are not alone. Like with my clients too, I work with the most incredible people. I love my clients. If I could have the whole world be my clients, it would be the most magical, amazing place. And they all have stuff. And I'm surprised all the time how the people that I'm like, how am I going to be able to help this person? They're so incredible. Like even you, I was like, okay, I know that I have something to offer, but I was like, Dan is incredible. What a great guy. He does so much for people. He's so successful. Like, God, am I a big fraud? And then, I work with my clients and I see that we all have the same stuff.
Oh yeah.
We all have the dark night.
It's just it's the human condition. It's just life is hard.
Yeah.
And especially like if you're in an industry that is validating only when you succeed.
Yeah.
Right? Like you are nothing unless you have success. And I know there's people listening that can resonate with
physical success. Let's be clear.
Yeah. Like monetary success.
Yeah,
like
good.
You have to put up the numbers, and if you don't, then you're a loser.
Yeah.
Like that's what the world tells you. Right. And the industry tells you. And it's your choice to believe that or not. And I struggle with that. We've had down months, bad months.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I have no idea how I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
And it is debilitating in a way, because if you've attached your identity to being the person who closes a certain number of deals, helps a certain number of clients every year, makes a certain amount of money, has a certain level of prestige, and you don't do that, like it's crushing. And I think that's where the work that we've done together has released me from a lot of that, because it's like, no, I don't want to be tied to those things. I want to be a great boss and a great originator to help people, and to be a great father, not to avoid, the follies of past generations and other things like that, but like because my kids deserve that. And I want to be that for them. And I want to be a great partner to my realtors, not because, I'm trying to make a certain amount of money. Like that is obviously there's a profit motive. I'm in business to make money, and that's cool, but that's not the driver. That's not what's behind the wheel. It's that I genuinely care about people, and I want to make a positive impact on their life.
Yeah. I mean, I was struck with that when you joined the networking group about how you talked about a mortgage. And when you met with your clients, looking at their, not only there's reality in the moment, but the future and what they cared about. And like, oh, do you want to stay home with your kids? Then that's going to change your income. So let's make sure when we're looking at the house and the mortgage, you're planning for this thing that you haven't done called having kids and the way you want to do it, which if we think about it, then it's too late. We're in a mortgage, right?
Right.
You're like, no,
At least they have the choice then, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you care about them having that space and that choice. And I was like, there's not anyone else I want to send, me personally, because I know Dan and I'm sure a lot of you are great, but I'm like, oh, I want everyone that I know to work with someone like Dan or Dan specifically.
I appreciate that a lot. I want to go back to focusing on, you know, the high performer who's listening to this, and maybe this is resonating. They've been up and down. They've found the success. They're not feeling fulfilled. Can you get a little bit deeper into like, how do you help them identify that thing, that carrot that they're chasing, and then changing that perspective? Because that's the thing I think I want people to walk away from listening to this episode is like, there is a different option. And how do you help them find what that thing is and change the perspective and like untangle them from all of those performative things that they've been kind of trained that they have to do and like unlocking that? Because I think it winds up being, for a lot of people, it's the motivator that gets them, it wakes them up in the morning. I have to stop. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be not successful. I want to be successful. I have to get up and make my 100 calls and do this and do this. And here's the checklist of things I need to do. We all fall into those traps, and that works to a certain extent until it stops working.
Yeah.
Right. Or it will get you to a certain level of efficiency, and then there's no more efficiency to be had. And then you cap out. And then because you don't continue to grow, you feel like a loser. Right.
Yeah.
Like stagnancy is bad. You can have a banner year and close $50 million in business, and you're like, good for me. I got to do 60 next year, because that carrot keeps moving further and further away. So how do you help people change that perspective to go, 50 million was a great year. You should be proud of yourself, celebrate that, and then be okay if next year you do 40 million, because it's still an amazing year, right? So how do you help people kind of break through that? Because I know that there's people out there that are struggling with that, because we're all, our industry conditions us to do that and to keep chasing and to keep setting higher and higher and higher goals.
Yeah. And they're using the same mechanisms that I'm working with.
Okay.
Right. So I'll give people the first big tool, because we've already presenced it. And if people are listening, they're probably already aware or stuck in this. The first clue is wherever we feel like it's this or that. Okay. I can be a high performer. I can meet all these goals and be in all this action, or I can wake up happy and fulfilled.
Okay.
Right.
Can't do both.
No, you absolutely can. That's why whenever you feel or hear an or, make it an and.
Okay.
Right. That's the first tool of the ego and the identity, is to take some info and make a set of opposites. That's the thing we have to attach to. That's the thing we have to avoid, or we'll die. Now, it makes that up in specific moments. And that's what I find with people. And I help them actually fully see and realize that. But that is just a couple bits of lots of information in that moment. But it makes this like polarized thing.
Okay.
So when we feel polarity, say and. It's both.
Okay.
I can be a high achiever and be a great father. I can be a high achiever, take care of myself, and be fulfilled. Because it's in that polarity where we get stuck. And then we feel like, well, I have to go more this way, and I can't really take care of myself or be a good family. There isn't really a balance.
Yeah.
And then we're just flipping back and forth.
I've experienced just that. It's like, okay, well, I know that my physical health is really important, and I neglected it for years because I felt like, oh, well, I have to go to work. I can't take time to go to the gym and, eat well. I have to just slam something down and get back to the office to work, because every minute that I'm not making calls is a minute wasted. Because if I don't perform, if I don't make a certain amount of money, if I don't close a certain number of loans, I don't have any value. And that's a really dangerous place to be, right? And then at a certain point, working with Marcus, it was like I had to shift and go, okay, I can make choices to take care of my body and go to the gym and eat well and do this, and also, be a high performer and close lots of business, and also be a great father and a great husband and a great friend and do all of those things at the same time. It's a matter of changing your mindset and not limiting yourself to the belief. Because if you think that you can't pick up the log, right, then you can't. But if you think that you can, or the log doesn't even exist, then you're unshackled from these things.
Yeah. I mean, right in there, like we unconsciously relate to our beliefs and our thoughts as though they're factual or real. And that's one of the crazy things, is those are just tools of the ego.
Right.
Right. So that belief, you're right. Like you can have both. And that's that. And if we can say like, no, like everything is possible. Like there is a way to be successful, fulfilled, to take care of myself. Right. If we just start there, I mean, the metaphor that comes to my mind is like when we tell people on a plane, you have to put your mask on first. Like, yeah, people in the crisis moment, they're like, no, I have to save my kid. I have to get my mask on first. Like, I'll be fine. Them, and then I'll get to me. No, like that's not accurate. And so, yeah, it takes a priority shift. It takes, right. And people have stuff right now that's pulling on there like, no, or they think, yeah, well, if I'm worried about me, I'm just going to get weak. I'm going to get soft. No, like there is a way to be performing even better than you know how, doing less work.
Right.
Right. And that comes from that world of being.
Right. And I think that people I think you're right. People are listening to this and they're like, this guy, come on, but I self-admittedly, I've had those thoughts. We've been in, you see my face change in session and you're like, I'm losing you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just struggling because I hear what you're saying and I want to believe you, but there's something that's just saying, no, Marcus is full of crap, Yeah. And I don't think that you are, and you're not, but like, there's something about it. And that's the ego pulling back, because the ego wants to hold on to this identity. Cause it's like, that's where it is best. The ego thrives in this opposition, yes or no, this or that. You can't have both. And it's like, well, if you can get through that and you can understand that you can have both, you just have to prioritize, and it takes work, right? It's not easy. Then the ego kind of has to dissolve, and that's not good for the ego. Is trying to self-preserve, right? So, but I think number one, I don't think people are even aware that their ego is the thing that's driving them. It's just operating in the background. It's like the elevator music that's always playing, and they just don't even realize that it's subconscious. And so like bringing the ego to the awareness is a challenge in itself. Right. So talk a little bit about that, and like how you help people even realize that the ego is like the operating system that's going on.
Yeah. I think the first thing to say, and I don't think most people know this, I did not know this till a few years ago, and it changed everything. There are parts of our brain that don't comprehend language. The oldest parts of our brain, back here next to the spinal cord, where all the data from our nervous system comes in first, that reacts, that amygdala cortex, right? We talk about fight and flight. That's where it happens. It doesn't understand language.
Right.
That's profound. We talk to our friends, we think through things, we journal, we go to therapy, and we're like, great, I figured it out. I understand it. Now it's going to change. And it does in some ways. And there's something that doesn't. And where it doesn't, it's that part of our brain. So thinking, talking to ourselves, all of that has a certain limit. When I am able to help people get into what's really going in the body and help the body let go of it in a way, non-language, that it understands, that's when there's something that shifts different than other things. Now, specifically what happens in these moments of jeopardy or crisis or overwhelm, our body goes into one of those trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It like wants to go towards the thing or away from the thing in some way, right? The mind then like has to react to the body doing that. And it's like, hey, I'm you. Yeah, I'm the voice in your head. That's me. No, that's not. That is the ego. And it's the little kid. It's the youngest member of the family because it's up here. It's the last in evolution. It loves language. It wants to get all of it right. It's the little kid in the family. Like, no, I'm so big. I'm impressive. I'm the grown up. Like, follow me. I'm the leader. And then we do. And we think, oh, that's just me. But the insidious thing is it's actually defined by these responses that the body has that it can't talk its way out of, that it can't control, that it can't affect. And so that thing keeps happening. And that's where a lot of those unfulfilling or big drives come from. Like when we're driven, it's something in there. And it always comes from moments we feel like we're insufficient or disconnected in a situation and we don't know what to do. And so then the mind just creates a whole value and beliefs and ideas and like an identity. It's like, oh, well, you're going to be good. You're going to be polite. Just be polite, be good all the time. If you're good all the time, look, do you see? No one feels, ooh, you don't have to worry.
Right. And it's funny because you're saying that. It's like, that's a very childlike, response to it. Right. And that makes sense because it's the least developed part of our brains. That is like the little sibling, right? It's like the youngest version of yourself. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so, you have to tap into like that other part of your brain and learn how to access it. And it's like impossible to do by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think our self-preserving mechanism is like, well, that's really scary to challenge your identity. Right. Yeah. Like imagine I'll be 42 next month. Right. It's like my entire life I have grown up playing this character. I believe that this is who I am. And then I'm going to sit by myself and challenge that identity and be like, actually, no, I don't have to play that role anymore. Like that's not possible. That's crazy. But working with someone who can help you access those like deeper parts and make sense of all of these competing things that are happening inside your own brain and your own body. I think that's really, really valuable. And it's not something that we really talk about, like the traditional therapy model of going and I did this for years and years and years. You go see a therapist and you talk and you tell about your feelings and what's frustrating you. And they give you some suggestions on how to manage things, but there's never really like a breakthrough, right? There's never like a healing moment. It's like it's a release valve.
Yeah.
Right. It's like letting open the valve, letting out some steam, closing it back up, send you on your way. Right. And then you let your tank fill up and you go back and you see your therapist like, okay, here we are. And then, and that's the traditional, my experience with the traditional therapy model. So working with someone like you is a completely different view. So like, as we're kind of looking at time here, we're talking, just time flies by. This is how our sessions go too. It's like an hour goes by. Like, how are you different than a traditional mental health professional?
Yeah. So I work in a different domain. Like and there are 4 domains that affect all of us as human beings. There's the physical, like our actual materials, physically we're made out of. There's the mental, which includes the ego, the intellect, memory. Then there is like an energetic. There is a way that energy moves in us, through us, relationally, and those pathways can get stuck. And then there is the existential, and that's kind of the big area for me, because the existential is about how we experience life becomes our relationship and beliefs about life itself. And so a lot of times when people aren't getting the results they want, and I've done therapy and got great results, and then there is like a point that it was started to be a plateau or a wall. Then I found transformational work and I did programs, and then I got to a wall. And then I found, so I've gone through the whole thing. And now one of the things that I love offering to my clients and to the people that I refer and collaborate with is really starting to distinguish. So instead of people feeling lost or insufficient or broken, they can realize what aspect has been, where's the thing that's stuck living. So I'm really focused on releasing stuck states. And there are things that a client will have an idea, they'll have something they're up to, and then their mind will have some idea of why it's there. And then I help facilitate them to figure out what the subconscious and the body's actually doing. And that is always different. And so one thing I love is just like, I help people find the answers they've been looking for that have been hidden, and everybody leaves walking away. Some days with clients, it's just about helping the mind move forward, because it's always like the mind is always trying to do the best it can for us. It's trying to keep us safe. Even though the ego is crazy and limiting, it knows you're not going to die. The body, the big puppy dog, when it reacts and has those trauma responses, it's just trying to keep us safe. That's why it keeps firing those things over every time something similar happens. So we have these 2 things that are just unable to communicate and work together, both that absolutely love us in kind of different ways. That's that polarity. So helping them like find the disconnect, over a few sessions with clients, the mind and the body start to have a better relationship. So if we're driven and it's like we have no choice, that's because the mind is trying desperately to keep us away from what the body's going to react to and lock us up. And once it starts to realize the body can actually like let go, and there's like, then life starts to come in focus. So that existential, like how we experience those moments, those trauma moments, they become fractured in those different columns. And then we go to practitioners that deal with one or the other, or sometimes two, but then the wall is that there's something in the other one. So I've been developing the ability to find the gap and to locate that thing for people more and more precisely, quickly, and then actually release it. So the person is back to the present moment. There's actual choice again somewhere there wasn't. So with my clients, I'm looking like, where this week, when we check in for success and looking for validation and proof of like whether or not this thing is released, it's like, tell me about your week. What did you notice? Was there any place that something usually just happens or fires where it didn't happen or fire? And that's my favorite moment, because clients will be like, I always, like usually this situation, I respond like that. And I used to think that I was thinking about it and choosing it, but I wasn't. And now it's not there. And all of a sudden I was like aware, and I realized there was a choice that I had never thought I could have. And I chose that one. So getting outside of that character just means there are new traits and opportunities that we don't see. And often where we're stuck is because this one's okay and that one's okay. And we can't see one that's like good. I can't see the way to be successful, motivated, active, and fulfilled and with my family.
Right. It seems impossible.
Yeah.
Right. And their body's kind of telling you it's not possible. You have to make a choice. Right.
And so when that's released, the view opens up, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait, there's the pathway. I couldn't see it. I can start to walk down there. I could see how walking down there, that could happen. So for like, even just for you, like you care about people. If all of those dollars and accomplishment were just expressions of how much people had a home in life, like you help people get a home, not just a house, right? A lot of people can help people buy houses. We know that's our industry, right? Realtors. But it takes a very different person who can help people think about what will create their home.
Right.
And if that actually motivates and inspires you, all of the monetary figures and success should be an expression of how much home you brought to people in the world. Right. So that bigger vision, that purpose, like when those things are gone, then you actually can start to feel what you're doing is creating home. It's creating safety. It's creating like long-term
sense of place, sense of belonging, safety, security, a place to gather, a place to express your joy, a place to mourn, a place to do all of those, very human things. That's what we do.
Yeah. Some people are selling houses.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that seems like a slight difference. It's not. When I think of my mom, who unfortunately kind of conceived me in a sexual assault when she was 16, and like the whole society and the world around her, like villainized her. She had to drop out of school. She had all of this shame, and she never fully recovered from that. And then as a little kid, I grew up and I absorbed her way of being, because, our little kid brains don't know that we're separate till 4 or 5. Right. So everything people did to my mom showed me like what I was worth. And I don't see how anyone couldn't say like that little kid doesn't deserve to have that running his life.
Right.
And so that's the thing, as we look, it's like, what do I want to create? I want to liberate people from these stuck states. I want them to get back in their soul and just have the freedom to do what really matters to them in a way that's meaningful, and them to actually get to experience that way of living and get to receive that natural benefit. Right? When I remember that and that vision, like living being its own art form, and I want all my clients to get to the point where they're like creating and sculpting in their experience every day so that they have wonder and joy and curiosity. When they meet with their friends and family, they're talking about what they're up to and like the beautiful things in their day instead of gossiping or fear mongering. Like that vision of a world full of like artists of living, sharing and inspiring each other. I've been really bringing that back to my clients this week and making sure, like, you know, if I haven't made this clear, this is the world that I'm creating every day.
Right.
What are you creating? And getting them present to that again.
Yeah. And then they wind up spreading that too.
Yeah.
And then it becomes contagious. Right. And that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think there's a part 2 that we need to record of this because we're just like scratching the surface. I had all these like things I wanted to go into, but I'm going to make sure that everyone knows how to get a hold of you. And if you're a high performer and you're feeling stuck and you've done the traditional coaching, if you've done, the performance coaching, and those are great places to start. Similar to like, traditional therapy, it's better than nothing, right? And a lot of people need to start kind of with that and kind of work through those foundational things. If you don't have good business practices, like you need to start working on that stuff, hire a traditional coach. If you've already done those things and you're still not achieving what you want to achieve, if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you're just on the hamster wheel chasing that carrot, please reach out to Marcus. Your office is local in Novato, but you also meet with people virtually. So you can be anywhere on the planet or outside of the planet as long as you have an internet connection.
As long as you got Starlink or something up there.
Totally fine. Great. You can meet by Zoom. And I really wanted to have you on the show because you made a huge impact on my life. And not only that, everyone I've sent to you, I can't tell you how many text messages and phone calls I get from when I introduce you to someone. They're like, oh my God, thank you so much for introducing me to Marcus. My life is different. So if you are a high performer, and I know people who listen to this personally, I know who they are. If you're hearing this and you're feeling that way, schedule an appointment with Marcus, go to his office, sit down with him, have a conversation, and I promise you that you will not regret it. I promise you that you will walk away feeling better, having more clarity, and you will want to go back and get more of it because it is life-changing. So it's different than what you've done before. It's different than anything you've ever experienced. And part of the reason having on this, because I wanted to kind of obviously talk about this, but also it's hard to explain what you do to somebody without them really experiencing it, because there's no parallel. It's kind of like this. It's like, no, it's not like that. It's something completely different. So for those of you out there, please schedule an appointment with Marcus. I'll make sure his booking link is in the show notes, link to website, phone number, all that good stuff. And I really encourage you to meet with him, hear him out, and give yourself over to the process, because your body's going to want to not do it. We've hit these stages many times in my own experience with you where I'm like, nope, can't do it. I can't. It's so hard to let go. And then we do an exercise, we work through it, and I wind up getting a breakthrough nearly every time that we meet. And it's impacted my life and my relationships so positively. And so I just want to say thank you. And I want to really hope that people take me up on the offer, and reach out to you to do the freebie consult that you offer, the intro session, and then really engage with you and creating a plan for themselves to break out of the thing that's holding them back, that's limiting their potential and is, forcing them to make that choice. Can't do this. It has to be this or this. It's this or that. And that is not true. Mm. And you can do better. And you deserve to have a better experience. So Marcus Peterson-Spain, thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful for you, for your coaching, for your guidance, for your friendship. And I really hope that the listeners and viewers are filling up your calendar soon.
Thank you so much. And I also just want to throw out there, even if you're confused, even if you don't believe, it's okay. You can call.
If I'm like a skeptic. I am like,
so is I.
I am a skeptic, and I'm like, I don't know, Marcus, this seems a little, this seems a little I don't know. It's not what we typically see, and that's okay. And now I've done it, I've experienced it, and I'm a believer. And I think that the listeners should be too. So please check out Marcus's website in the show notes. I'll make sure that everyone knows how to get a hold of you, and we'll have you back sometime really soon, because I'm like just scratching the surface, and we like got really close to like hitting on some things I wanted to get to, but we'll do part 2 sometime soon, maybe next month.
Okay. I would love that. Thank you.
Awesome.
And thank you for just being someone who's so generous. Like even this podcast, you're like trying to give something to the performers, the realtors, to give them consistent value. You're just always such a contribution. And I want you to know that really makes such a difference, not only for people individually, but for like a community. Like I watch you bring an elevated sense of community and empowerment and connectedness. And whether or not you know or appreciate that as much, I just want you to know from the outside, it is so palpable, and I appreciate it. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I hope that it's as beautiful and valuable to you, and you know what you cause.
I really appreciate that. I'm learning how to see that. I think there's still some blockages that I have that prevent me from seeing those things. And I just go, okay, well, I just got to go do more, and I still work through that and struggle with that. But I really appreciate you saying that. And I am working on zooming out and being able to see the results of the things that I put into the world, because I really do make a conscious effort to I want to leave the world a better place and impact people's lives positively. And I work diligently at that. That's in my consciousness, but I don't necessarily always zoom out to see, what's there. So I really appreciate you recognizing that. And that means a lot to me.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here and listening to this episode of By the Bay. We'll have Marcus back for part 2. And I just want to say, I appreciate you all for being in the audience, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Stay up to date with Bay Area real estate. Hit subscribe now if you haven't already. Did you enjoy this episode? We love reviews in the Apple Podcasts app. We'll read yours on the show. This is By the Bay.